let's get started right away here. Break-even analysis. Just a couple slides to kind of go over the terminology that we'll be using. Break-even point, what is that? Basically, it's where my income and my cost meet. And then from there on, I start my positive return on investment, which you guys are familiar with that term. So if you look at this here, we have on the y-axis, we have dollars, and then we have the units. And as units go up, so in our case, fee studies, the more studies you do, the more you walk towards that break-even point. And in that break-even point, the cost and the income are equal. And then from there on, the income is higher than the cost. And this is where, you see that blue area is going to be your profit. And the more studies you do, the bigger the profit is going to get. Before you hit that break-even point, it is a loss that you're facing. And you have to get to that break-even to, have everything paid for and then start that positive return on investment. And that's the goal. And this is what the tool is for, to tell you when do you reach that break-even point. Then just real quick, fixed and variable costs and what's the difference. Fixed cost, that's always per period, right? It could be per week, per month, per day, whatever it is. Usually we look at it per month. And the fixed cost that you pay no matter what. If you do 0 fees, your fixed cost is still there. If you do 100 fees, the fixed cost is still there. So it's stable and always the same. And then we have the variable cost. That's the per study cost, right? So anything that I only have to pay for if I actually are performing my fees. And the two together, that's my total cost, right? So those are the terms that we need to be familiar with. And then the contribution margin, that's one that's maybe not as common. If you have a sale price for your study or a reimbursement, so let's say you are a private practice clinician doing mobile fees, you charge $400 for fees. That's your top line revenue, and then out of the 400, there's a portion that's cost, your variable cost per study that you do, and then the rest of it is contribution. So that is your first level of margin. Then you pay all the other costs like fixed costs, etc., and then you get the profit out of it. But that's the contribution margin out of the sales number that we have. And then that's it for the little terminology tutorial here. So let's get out of this and into our tool. And I'm going to sit down now here on our nice acute care card to do this. Just a little bit in case you see me. Perfect. Okay, so here's our tool, break-even analysis. We're going to go through it from a couple different perspectives. We're going to go through it from an acute care perspective, from a outpatient perspective, and from a mobile fees perspective. It is a little bit different because that revenue piece, for the most part, is different if you are actually getting a reimbursement. So if you're billing a code that has a reimbursement, that's your income, right? Could be $200 for fees per study. If you are, however, in an inpatient setting where it's all Medicare, reimbursement and consolidated billing, you don't get that exact amount for your study. So what do you do then? Then you have to look at your cost savings of doing fees versus the most common alternative being the modified barium swallow. And we do have a separate webinar on the cost comparison, but you can certainly use the break-even analysis for that as well. And we're going to start with that. So it depends really on your numbers. Is MBS done in-house or at a separate location? There's a radiologist involved, radiology tech, a nurse, maybe a porter to transport the patient. On the fee side, it might just be the speech pathologist and/or nurse. So in most cases, an MBS or the variable cost for an MBS is going to be more expensive than a FEES. And it varies, but the number that we find sometimes is somewhere between $100 and $200 per study. So round about 135 is what I like to use here as a cost saving doing FEES versus modified. So in the first field here that I fill out, which is my revenue section, this is the money that I make, or in this case, the cost that I save. The first one here, I'm going to put in $135. So this is me saying that I save $135 when I do a FEES versus doing the MBS, which then I don't have to do anymore. Now, the next field here is my maximum number of studies per period. We're looking at it from in acute care here. I want to look at it from a yearly perspective because in acute care, a hospital would usually purchase equipment, and then you want to look at it from a yearly or 2-year perspective rather than monthly. If your facility is leasing or renting, then you can look at it from a monthly perspective. But let's go look at it yearly in acute care. So if in a month we maybe have the demand of, let's say, 20 studies, 20 instrumentals that are needed, and times 12, that would be 240 in a year. So I'll put 240 per period, maximum number of studies. So those are the number of studies that we could do as a maximum in a year based on our demand. Okay, so then it'll give me my maximum revenue cost per period, or cost saving in this case. For in a year, I can save $32,000 by doing a FEES if I save $135 per study. Now come my variable cost here. First one is the travel expense per study in an acute care. This is 0 because you're not traveling anywhere. The endoscopist doesn't travel anywhere. Cleaning supplies per study. And we have cleaning supplies again as a fixed cost down below, but per study would be, an enzymatic sponge that you want to run over the scope. It's roughly $2.70. So I'll put that in here, $2.70 for the cleaning supplies per study. Feeding supplies per study, your applesauce, apple juice, cookies, green food dye, everything that you need there. Let that be $3, which is probably conservative. It's probably less than that, but we'll put $3 in there. And then we have the endoscopist pay per study. So acute care setting, how much does an SLP make during the time that you need for FEES? If you say FEES is can be roughly done in an hour, you would say, okay, the SLP might make $55, and then you put that in here. So now we already have a lot of information. One is the contribution margin and cost. So this is what I mentioned initially. In this case here, out of our potential revenue or cost savings, in this case, the $135, there is 60% of that we need to cover our cost. And then, so this is the variable cost from here, and 74% is our contribution margin that we can utilize to pay for the fixed cost. And then here you see the maximum total variable cost is $14,568. So 240 studies in a year would cost us per, the variable cost for FEES of $14,500 roughly. And then if we take the cost minus if we take the potential savings here per year minus the potential cost, that's our gross margin of cost savings for this. And then we're going to go and put our fixed cost in, so our equipment cost. Equipment, can range dramatically. So this is where you can play with a tool to find out how much do certain types of equipment and setup change these numbers and change the break-even point for you. In our case, acute care setup here, one endoscope, we're looking at $17,500 all in. So I'm going to put that in here and then move on to my insurance. insurance here per period, we should say not per month. It says per month here, but we're looking at it from a yearly perspective. So, you know, if it's $50, let's say per month for insurance on the equipment, then we would be looking at $600 per year. Then we have our cleaning supply per year. I mean, if cleaning is done with high-level disinfectant, it's not that expensive. It can be as little as $100 per year. And then other fixed costs, you know, per year, we can put something in here as a buffer, be that for maintenance of the equipment or whatever it is. Let's say $500 per year as a buffer. Okay, so now we filled all these numbers out, and at this point, we already have our break-even point here, 251.68. What does that mean? This is the number of studies that you need to do to have paid for the entire equipment. All right, so this is 251.68. You can't do 0.68 studies. So in this case, you will need 252 studies in order to have paid for the entire equipment, but not just the equipment. The equipment, so the capital component in the beginning, plus the variable cost per study. So all of the endoscopists pay, all of the cleaning supplies, all of the feeding supplies. And after that, once you've paid it off, you will start a positive return on investment. So if I, you know, as you can see, we need 252 studies, so it would take us slightly over a year because we said 240 studies is the maximum per year. If we say, well, maybe we can do 260 in a year, that doesn't change the break-even point. That'll be the same, but my table here will actually start giving me not just the breaking point, but what happens once we reach the 260 and more. That's when you start a positive return on investment. So see $618, that's my positive return after I paid off the entire equipment, always to pay for the endoscopies, all my supplies, and I would have that. Now from here, we can go to our chart to show what that looks like. In this case, this goes up to 250. This might be the maximum. Yeah, the chart can't go further than 250. But you can see that these lines go towards each other, and where they meet, that's your break-even point. Now, if we look at our numbers here, again, cost savings, and we see, well, we can save more than this because, you know, the hour of a radiologist can easily cost $150 plus the other people involved. If this number goes up a little bit, and in your case, $150, that the break-even point goes down quite a bit, as you can see, right? So if you're in acute care, you really got to find out how much money do I save when I do fees on from a variable cost perspective, and that number will then help you find that break-even point, and then you know, you actually have the point where they meet. So again, you know, these numbers are flexible. You can you know, look at, for example, if you look at a system that's, you know, $30,000, you know, that makes your break-even point go way up. You know, now it will take you 350 studies to pay for the equipment. Usually, you know, most facilities will try to pay for the equipment within a year. So that's why you want to see, you know, can that be done? You know, even let's say you wanted a portable system, with us is only $15,000. So now, you know, with this 181, if we can do, you know, even if we go back to our 240 studies here, we can do that easily in a year. And our break-even point is right here. You see the lines cross, you know, then you have a strong argument to say, hey, we can pay for the equipment within the first 12 months and then have positive return on investment. And all of these things you can show with these tools by only filling out the yellow numbers. Okay, so let's leave the acute care setting and go to an outpatient clinic. And even if you have an acute care hospital and you have mobile or portable equipment, you can take it back and forth and you can use it in an outpatient clinic. The math gets a little easier with an outpatient clinic because you have a clear reimbursement, right? You have a code that you bill and that pays a certain amount. The national average is $203, might be a little bit over, might be a little bit under, but let's put in $203 here for reimbursement for fees, and our maximum number of studies per month, for an outpatient clinic, or per year again, would be 240. We can do it per year real quick. No travel expenses, cleaning supplies stay the same. It's $3 here. Feeding supplies, $3 per study. Endoscopist pay, we'll leave it at that. What we had before, $55, and now the equipment cost, go back to the 17,500, insurance 500, we had I think 600 per year, cleaning supplies 100 per year, and another 500 per year. So we're looking at a yearly perspective with a reimbursement of $203. Break-even point is at 131 studies. That's when you break even. You've paid for the entire equipment. Now, what if you are in a clinic that doesn't purchase the equipment, but you do a rental or a lease? Because we do offer that. We would change the numbers here a little bit. The revenue per study is the same. You do 1, you do 10. Per study, we pay $203, or are paid by Medicare, etc. Now, the maximum studies per period wouldn't be 240, because now we're looking at it from a monthly perspective. In a month, what is that? 20 a month. Travel expense stays the same. All this variable cost stays the same. Variable cost always means it doesn't matter if it's a month, if it's a year, if it's 10 years, it's always a per study perspective. For the fixed cost, we would now have a rental or a loan scenario. So rental for our portable fee system is $500 a month. Put that in here. The insurance per month, you're looking at, let's say $50, can be as little as $31, but let's say $50. Cleaning supplies per month, let's put that at $10, and then other fixed costs per month, let's put it at $50. See how that changes. 4.3, huge difference, because you're looking at it from a different time period. Now it's a monthly perspective, right? So if I don't buy the equipment, but I rather, in this case, rent, I can generate a positive return on investment and meet my break-even point in the very first month. We need 4.3, not possible, so we round it always up to the next number, which is 5. We need 5 studies to meet that break-even point. If I go to my chart, 5 studies, that's where the line crosses, and this is where, on a monthly basis, then I make my positive return. Next month, I'm starting at 0 again. I again have to do 5. But 5 studies a month, when you think your demand is 20, is not that difficult to reach, right? So it depends on the perspective, depends on the setting, depends on whether or not you're buying equipment or renting or leasing equipment. Now, if we are in a mobile fee setting, so you're a private practice clinician and you want to start mobile fees and get your own equipment, and go out to skilled nursing facilities, go out to nursing homes, etc., and you charge a flat fee. You're not doing anything with billing. You just charge the facility a flat fee. Usually we see between $350 to $450. So let's say $400. You charge $400 here. Maximum number per period. How many can you do? You're a mobile fees provider and you're just starting out. So, let's say the maximum is 10. In the beginning, it might be even a little bit less than that. But let's say maximum of 10 studies, because maybe you also just want to do this part-time, right? As you can see here, what's my maximum revenue per month? Is $4,000 is what I can make with this. And Then we go on here, travel expense per study. So as a mobile fees provider, you're driving to the skilled nursing facilities, nursing home, etc., and driving back. And sometimes there's a lot of driving involved. What if you drive an average of, I don't know, 50 miles, per facility that you meet? 50 miles. You could then say, okay, what's a typical reimbursement that covers wear and tear and gas and all of that? It might be something like 50 cents per mile, or whatever it is at. So let's say 50 cents per mile, 50 miles average. So you would say $25 is my travel expense per study on average. Then you have the cleaning supplies per study. Same thing, $3 for my sponge. And then I have the feeding supplies per study, stays the same as well, $3. Or maybe it's more expensive for me because I have to buy it myself and I don't get as good rate. So $3.50, let's say. Then we have the endoscopist pay per study. So if you're a mobile fees provider, per study, you're driving there, you're doing the evaluation, you're doing the review, you're doing your own cleaning, you're driving back. All in all, it might easily be 2.5 hours of your time. So how much do you want to pay yourself, right? Maybe $55 doesn't quite cut it. So let's say put $150 in here. So now we can see here already these numbers changing, and our contribution margin is 55%, our cost is 45% based on $400 that we charge. Then we go on equipment loan, equipment lease here on a monthly basis. So $500 for a rental, but we actually have a lease to own for our most portable setup that is only $270 per month to have the complete fee set up. We put that in here. On that, the insurance is $31. My cleaning supplies per month stay the same. Other fixed cost stays the same. All I need in this scenario to reach my break-even point and start a positive return on investment is 2 studies, 1.65, rounded up to 2. 2 studies a month is what I need to generate that positive return on investment. And then when I do 2 studies, my business makes $76. This is after I've already paid myself and paid for all my supplies and paid for the equipment. If I do 6 studies, the profit for the company is $950. If I do my whole 10 studies, the profit for the company is $1,824 after I paid myself. What if, $150, the rate might be still pretty low. I might actually be able to make more, doing PRN somewhere. So, if you up this here to $200, it'll take you 3 studies, right? And even if you just say like, okay, I want to be paid at $250 per study, even then, you're looking at 4 studies now that you would want to do in a month. And this way, you can again play with these numbers as they change. What if you say, hey, I need several contracts and I want to be competitive and I can only charge $350? Well, your break-even point goes up, right? It's 5.27, so 6 studies per month to reach that break-even point. But then you can absolutely reach that with $350, where you pay yourself $250 and you pay for all of the equipment as well. If you go to our chart here, you see that's here our break-even point where the 2 meet, and then from there you can generate that positive return, and it gives you the break-even point down here again as well. Now, typically, the lease is something more common for mobile fees provider. But even if you're in that situation and you just want to purchase the equipment, what does that look like, and how long is it going to take you to pay for the entire equipment? So let's look at this from a yearly perspective again. If I can do 10 studies in a month, I can do 120 in a year. The per study expenses do not change. That has nothing to do with the time period we're looking at. And then down here, equipment costs. So this is where, let's say $15,000 for the portable system. And then I got my insurance per year. In this case, it'll be something like $360 roughly. And then cleaning supplies will be $120. And then other fixed costs, I'll put that to $500. Okay, so now we're back where we see, okay, 233.28, so 234 studies to pay for my equipment, and how fast can I do the this number of studies. If I only do a handful of studies a month, this might take me some time. Of course, I have the advantage of being in private practice. The equipment will last quite a bit longer than in a hospital setting, etc. So you might be okay. So like, 240 studies or 234, I can do that in 2 years. And even then that's, totally fine. It still makes a lot of sense. Generally speaking, I think that if you are in that situation, you want to do mobile fees in private practice, you really do benefit from a lease quite a bit, just not having the burden up front. But, if the funds are available, might as well. Now, 234, what if we go back to $400, what we wanted to charge before? This number goes way down, right? The $50 per study really makes a change in when we reach that break-even point. And again, in this case, it's the break-even point that has paid for the entire equipment. So after that, your per study profit goes way up once you've paid that off. What if I don't pay myself $250, but just the initial $150 that we talked about? Well, look at that. You only need 74 studies now. So this is a number where, you would think like, well, 74 studies, if you break it down, that I can easily do in, maybe a year, maybe in 2 years or whatnot. So these numbers change quite a bit, and on an ongoing basis, they can help, especially in private practice, to kind of gauge, it's like, how much should I charge? How much should I pay myself? And all these things to kind of figure out the best place that you want to be with that. Okay, so this is the third scenario that I wanted to show, is that mobile fees private practice place. Are there any questions maybe? And if there are, feel free to put them in the chat here. Linelli, I see you, your name there. Thanks for joining. I know we emailed back and forth a little bit, and I think you had a hard time getting the invitation, but I'm glad you made it here. Yeah, thanks for joining. Don't know if there are any questions. Maybe you can remind me, Linelli, what setting are you in currently, and what's your interest in fees for?
So Linelli says she just started at Coney Island Hospital.
Oh, nice. Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, so I'm guessing. Yeah, that's totally fine. Use the chat. That's cool. I can see it come through. Yeah, great. So I'm guessing your hospital currently doesn't have fees, right? You're doing all modifieds for instrumentals.
It's acute care, and my interest is starting a mobile fees.
Oh, okay, cool. So are you doing fees at that location? Are they doing fees?
Mostly MBSS.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so mobile fees, as you could see, this here is one of the examples where you reach that break-even point and have paid for the entire equipment with this number of study, and you can really play with these numbers to fully understand. Either way, Oh, you just got the fees. Gotcha. Okay, very good. And yeah, so either way, you know, you can make this work, and this even works part-time. That's the beauty about it, right? It's not like if you want to start mobile fees, you have to jump right into it and you know, leave everything behind you and take the risk of a lifetime. It's not really like that. And one of the things that make it possible, of course, is more affordable equipment, and that's why, you know, PatCom as a company that focuses on SLPs, I think we realize that having a price point well below $20,000 really helps for mobile fees in private practice to do this, start this part-time, you know, getting about these like 4 or 5 studies in a month. That can be done much easier, even with one contract or so, than you know, it's like hustling for 30 fees a month or so, which, you know, that's possible. Like the busiest fees providers in the country, they'll do 30, 35 studies a month. And this is, and can absolutely be a full-time job. And if that's your goal, fantastic. But even, you know, a lot of others that are and have been doing it for a while, they work at a hospital, you know, there's certain benefits, like benefits that come with it. And then they just do it on the side, and they do their, you know, couple studies a week, and they're very happy with that. So yeah, there's different approaches to that. All right. Well, great. I'm glad we could kind of go over these scenarios. I hope it makes this tool a little bit more clear. If you're interested in the other webinars, we're still doing one more on cost comparison and one more on the average decision matrix, or maybe even a couple more. I'm not 100% sure right now. Either way, they will also be made available online when we're all done with those. And if you have any questions at any time, reach out to me. If you have my email, or you can reach out to info@patcommedical.com to reach out as well. All right. Well, thank you so much spending some of your Sunday with me, and we will hopefully talk to you soon. Have a great day.